Okay, first let's take a look at the bad example of a cover letter. Now this one is riddled with issues. So I'm going to just start reading through it and pointing out all of the bad things and things that you want to make sure are perfect to avoid and making sure that you've got that perfect cover letter. So first, as you remember in our review of letter writing, basically it said that you do not have to provide a date, and you do see a date here, which isn't even spelled out and should be properly spelled out if it's going to be put in a formal letter. So we would want to get rid of that and just eliminate it altogether. Then it did say that we did not have to put the specific information of the person that we are actually writing to, which is what I'm going around right here. So, Mr. John Adams. This up here is your information, okay? And we'll take a look at the good example on how we could actually make this look better then as well. But a couple things just in this section alone that I want to point out to you. Here, so the address here says Interview Road. We should have capitalized the I and the R. That is just minor little details, but that alone could get this cover letter thrown out and you'll never get a second chance. And that's it. What they're looking for in cover letters is for everything to be perfect. So if it's not perfect, there's little minor mistakes, they're just going to throw it out and you have lost your chance in even possibly getting an interview. Then, of course, any town, Minnesota, is what the MN stands for. Any, and then town, and then Minnesota, it should be a capital M and a capital N here. So all of that stuff would need to be fixed. Then, looking at the rest of this, even if we were to include the person that we think is the hiring person here, in this example, John Adams, if we're listing it here, we want to make sure that we capitalize the guy's last name. That would be huge too. Then the next part here, we would want to capitalize the R in road. And then here, for the mailing address part of that, this stands for Florida, so it should be a capital L then as well. Then moving on. So we had plenty of issues just in that part that we would want to avoid because just those little things would get that thrown out and we would lose our chance at a possible position. Moving on though. So here is that salutation that we were talking about where this is a formal letter. So it says, Dear John. We know that the last name here is Adams. So then it should be formally Dear John Adams or Dear Mr. Adams is what we should have here. And as we mentioned, no comma. Comma is only for informal, where we want to have a colon then instead of that comma. Then getting into the actual letter. Obviously, I made it a bad letter with lots of bad things on purpose to point this stuff out. So as we start to read this first paragraph, I am writing you to ask you for a job. Obviously, I am. We need the space here. And you're never going to be writing someone to ask them for a job. You are interested in a job, and that's what you want to make sure to state. There are many reasons you should consider me for this, and they couldn't even spell position right. So here would be another issue. I think you would be a fool not to hire me. So remember we talked about making sure that we're not too cocky. This would be an issue as well. But clearly just this stuff, these two things right here, the no separation in between the I and the am, and then position spelled incorrectly. Again, if we had even made it this far, this would have been thrown out for those mistakes. Again, not stating that you would be a fool not to hire me. We want to state the reasons why. We don't want to be cocky and come off the wrong way because that is going to be taken the wrong way by that employer. Moving on to the, oh, and sorry, before we move on to the next one, I did want to point out, we don't even know at this point in the first paragraph what they've even applied for. What kind of job are they looking to get here? We have no idea. You need to make sure that that is clear within the first paragraph, because in a lot of situations, a lot of these companies are hiring more than 100 people, or I'm sorry, they have more than 100 people applying for one specific position. And in a large company, on most given months or throughout the year, they have many different positions that are open that they're hiring for. So they need to quickly be able to move through this stuff and figure out exactly what you're hiring for. So if they can't even figure that out within the first paragraph, that alone might get you thrown right out. Moving on to the second paragraph. I have attended elite college since 1995 and have a master's in computers. Clearly this should be, I have attended elite college. We're going to assume that maybe college is probably part of the name, and if that is the case, then it should be a capital C in college if that's part of the name. Now, here's something that we might want to be a little weary of, or at least the employer might be weary of, is that you're saying that you have attended since 1995. So are you stating that you are still currently attending, which we are now in 2020? So that could be a huge issue. And then I have a master's in computers. Computer what? Computer science, computer technology. There's so many different things, and you should be very specific on that as well. I am on the dean's list. A dean should have the apostrophe there. And I have an A average grade. Okay, cool. But let me tell you one thing about this. When it comes time for you to actually apply for a job, unless you are right out of college, no one cares anymore what kind of grades or the grade point average that you even had in school. If you have at least 6 months of working experience out in the real working world, they no longer care what your grades were. So this isn't necessarily something that we should put in there. And if we are, then maybe we state the GPA. But again, it's not something that should even be in your cover letter. It would just be something that's stated at the bottom with your actual college experience within that section on your resume. I am also part of our local church group. We help out counseling spelled wrong, many of the students here at the college. Okay, cool. I guess maybe something that might be relevant to what you're applying for, but still we have no idea at this point. We're in paragraph 2 and don't know what you're applying for yet. So that's an issue. Moving on to the next paragraph. My source tells me that you are looking for a salesman. Oh, cool. We finally know what they're applying for. But it took us to paragraph 3 to figure that out. While I have no sales experience per se, this is a fragmented sentence here. I am a hard worker and would like to start my career at your company. Okay, well, here's a problem. You have no sales experience, but you're a hard worker and so you would like to start your career. Okay, that is going to happen from time to time, but we want to make sure that we connect this then with some kind of experience that might be relatable or kind of relatable to sales experience. Moving on. This will be a nice stepping stone for me. I currently would like to work with computer, but I think this would suit me fine for now. A stepping stone for you? Not something that you ever want to say. And here's why. Whether you are looking to apply for a position that you don't plan on keeping for a long period of time, that's not something that you ever make known to that employer. It's something that you keep to yourself. So we don't want to state this at all. We don't even want to state this when we're talking to them if we make it to an interview either. Currently would like to work with and to be computers, comma, but I think this would suit me fine for now. Again, for now. So you're currently stating that you really have no intention of staying at this position, which would also be a no-no to write because this is a big red flag for this company. No company is going to want to invest money to hire you, train you, and then hope that you're going to stay if they know ahead of time that you have no intention of doing so. Moving on. I am currently working at my local church while I finish up, and they didn't spell school right. Okay, again, nice that you're working, but how does this connect to the sales position? You have to make sure that you're showing some kind of connection. We help counsel students at the local colleges. Okay, then maybe show that this is some kind of sales tie together. Kind of word that different. It doesn't pay much, so I am having to look elsewhere. That would be, it doesn't pay much, comma, so I am having to look elsewhere. But again, this is not something that you should be stating in a resume, in a cover letter, in an interview of how much you make, unless they ask you how much you make. That's the only way you should be saying it. Otherwise, you should not be stating that kind of information. I have two, and it should be TWO, years, and then years should be spelled out, experience with doing this and work well with people. I know your customers will love me. Most people do. Okay. Again, getting a little cocky. Give us reasons why most people would love you. Most customers would love you. And make sure that you're giving examples and tying that together with sales. And then moving on to the last. I will be anxiously waiting to hear from you on when I can start. Please call anytime. If I am busy, please leave a message on my voicemail and I will get back to you at my earliest. And I didn't spell convenience right. Thank you, Joe Johnson. Here's a couple things here. Anxiously waiting to hear from you when I can start. No, we do not want to assume that we're going to even get an interview, let alone a position. Please call anytime. Well, they should know that they should be able to call anytime. They also should know that they can leave a message, whatnot. That's not something you can say at your earliest convenience. As soon as possible, or look forward to hearing from you. We'll look at the good example, and that we'll definitely see a better way of doing this. And then at the end, it just has a nice thank you, Joe Johnson. But one thing that I do want to point out is that at the bottom here, we do not see any way to contact. So remember, it's not something that's mandatory, but it is recommended. A phone number, an email, something. The only way we see to contact this person is up at the very top, and that is by an address. So the only way this company can even contact them at this point is to mail him snail mail, which is not likely going to happen these days. So that alone is going to get this cover letter thrown out, and they're not going to have a chance. But obviously, there's so many other reasons why and so many other issues throughout this entire bad example. So these are some of the things that you want to make sure to stay away from. And so then we'll look at the better cover letter so you can see the difference.